Welcome to the What's Our Verdict TV podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Matt and Heiner,
Better red than dead.
Ian Anderson,
Some shit.
and Jay Vinson.
Hey guys, how you doing?
All right, do you ever find yourself wondering if you should take the time to set your TiVo and record that show each week, spend the money on that streaming service, or invest hours into binging that show that everyone's telling you to watch? Well, we're here to answer that question for you. We put TV shows on trial, discuss the facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. To check out our other episodes, if you're joining us on Facebook or watching After the Fact on Instagram, you can head to our website using the link in our bio. If you're on YouTube, the link's down in the description below. You can also listen to us wherever fine podcasts are found: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Ghana, just to name a few. And, of course, as always, it's free. Today we're reviewing Chapter 12 of The Mandalorian, the Siege. To get started, I know that at least a couple of us have had some concerns with episodes lacking content. So I'm just going to throw it right to Mattson. How'd you feel about this episode, Mattson?
You know, as I was telling the fine gentleman before we started recording, my wife, who was watching with me, Allie, said, why wasn't this just the first episode of season 2? And do any of us have a good reason for that? I don't think so. I'm just going to treat this as we restarted season 2 from this point forward, because all that we saw beforehand was great, but not even close. This episode was awesome. I know I've been complaining. I was thoroughly satisfied today.
To kind of throw a wrench in that system, because we did need at least one episode before this, because otherwise, how would he know where to find the Jedi?
Yeah, all right, whatever. Okay, fair point, but this episode was baller.
No, I don't deny that. Great episode. But I didn't dislike the other 3 episodes either as much. So
There also may be a storyline or theme that we have very underestimated that I'll go into when I go into my the thing that I want to talk about, Baby Yoda. But I think there might have been a reason for these episodes.
Interesting. I'm interested to hear your theory there, and we'll get to it in just a second. I did want to bring up the fact that it's cool that we're going back to, and this is kind of the reason that I like that they've waited until now to bring us back to Navarro, because we had to watch this whole ship just busted ass going through this space. And he looks at it, how would you feel about going back to Navarro? So it made sense for a reason for him to go back to Navarro besides just, hey, it's a convenient plot point, right? Like, he's off doing his own thing. He left to try to help, finish his quest, and organically they brought him back to Navarro in a way that made sense to me. So that's part of the reason that I enjoyed it. But it was nice to see the changes in Navarro. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, they got like a school now, which is the younglings. That's definitely the way. I was wondering though, Mattson, were you excited from the get-go at the intro? As soon as they showed the intro, I was like, okay, meat and potatoes.
Oh, I mean, I saw the little comment on the episode was like, it reunites with allies or something to the extent. I was just like, let's go, giddy up. And I mean, I was prepped because of JJ, because he gave me a little spoiler. He sprinkled some salt on that. So I mean, I usually watch these episodes on Friday, but I had some just kind of personal stuff going on, and so. Man, it was awesome. It did not disappoint. I'm hoping we just hit warp speed from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome what they did with the town. I like that it's like built up into something respectable and it's still rubble. But man, you guys glossed over the whole red wire, blue wire, Baby Yoda thing, which is so awesome. And then, like, afterwards, like, just like working on a car with your buddy, they're sitting there having a drink, and Mando drinks under his helmet, which was pretty cool to see him do that. I thought he was going to take it off for a second. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that whole sequence was awesome, and it is a good way to bring it back to Navarro, honestly, because that ship was beat ass. The door was busted and shit. Oh, my gosh.
I did have a laugh because there was a video that popped up. Since you brought that up, Jay, there was a video that popped up on my feed. There was like this professional style YouTube video that talked about the Baby Yoda or the child not being able to differentiate between the blue and the red wire. And I'm like, I don't think that was the case. I think the man's trying to explain, put this wire where this wire was and this wire where this. I'm like, the dude's a baby. Like,
I'm just impressed that the baby Yoda can understand English.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Also, they had to have done something right for him to get to that final point. So he had to have pulled some wires and done something
Yeah.
okay until that final point where he just didn't get it. And then he blew up and he was like, whatever.
yeah. It's something about fixing ships in the Star Wars universe and people getting zapped too. That shit's pretty funny. R2D2 got zapped so many times it was ridiculous trying to fix ships. So it was pretty funny to watch him get electrocuted.
It's funny you bring that up. This episode to me was a lot of throwbacks. I mean, we got the X-wings again. We got to go to like a traditional Empire base. Someone played with the controls to. It wasn't to lower like a ray shield or what's the one that
Tractor
holds
beam?
ships, tractor beams, but it was to power down a facility and other. So it made me go back to like episode 4 with Obi-Wan when he was pulling down the lever and everything. And just kind of getting that. Again, my wife Allie said this feels like Star Wars, and it just did. It was the type of action you expect, the flow you expect, the daring kind of rebels storming into a base, and then the stupid Empire, like with those speeder bikes that jumped off, and the two of them knocked into each other and exploded, and yeah, it just felt good. It was fun.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up the ledge because that was such a funny moment where the Mythrol was like, there's not even a railing on this thing. It's like true. If you go back and watch all the original, at least most of the Star Wars movies, there's never any railings on these freaking ledges that they're working with. So it's pretty funny. It was a nice little callback joke.
Also, they showed the stormtrooper. I thought it was a great scene when he just dropped while they were trying to like open the door because Mando jetpacked up there and just whooped some ass.
Yeah. All of a sudden he just falls.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll do. So something I noticed about the town that I just wanted to pick up that was really cool was, did you guys see the statue of IG-11 behind the?
Oh no!
So as they're walking through,
No.
there's and they're having a conversation. I think it was when they were talking to the Mythrol when he was sitting at that desk, and we learned that he's working for Grief Karga at this point to pay off his debt. There's a statue behind him that's got IG-11 standing there, like he's like they paid homage to this droid that made it so that they could get rid of the Empire
awesome.
there. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It was kind of weird seeing that Carl Weathers basically had a slave. I was like, is that a cool thing? But then I realized towards the end of the episode, since he directed it, I was like, he's just a boss. Like he just bosses people around. He doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, and I love that he's like using the time, like you owe me something like 300 years of service,
like currency. Yeah.
And he's
at
like,
one point I was like down to 200.
yeah, he's like, I'll knock off 39 years or some shit, like just some random
Yeah, he had
number.
350. It's like, what is it? Who cares?
And then he's like, the Mythrol is like bargaining with him, and he's just like, how about another 15 years off your sentence? I'm just like, this is some bullshit right here. But yeah, Horatio Sands did a great job of bringing some comedic relief to the episode because it was a pretty intense episode. Another thing, so just to kind of touch, you guys mentioned the Imperial base that we went into. So that was there was a callback. So there was an insignia that looks similar but not quite to the old Imperial insignia. So the Imperial insignia with like this circle in the middle and then the bars that came out from it. There was an adjustment to that, which in Legends lore, so the old canon that's not canon anymore, is being called on there. That's the scientific research and development division of the Empire. Basically, that's their insignia from old Legends lore. Really cool callback there. So I really appreciated the fact that they're bringing some of these things that I read and was able to pay attention to. I really enjoy that stuff. That leave it to Favreau and Filoni to bring that shit back. I got to call out Midge here. She said hi Midge. Long time no talk to. Thanks for watching us. Yeah,
Is
so go ahead,
lava like a callback? Because it seems like there's a lot of lava in episodes. And I remember one time he said, like, when the last episode, season 1, he said, like, for them to have lava in the swords means they learned something from the first films.
Well, so yeah, there was a planet, like if you watch the prequel trilogy, episode 3, there's a whole planet, Mustafar, where they have the great battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. That's how Anakin becomes Darth Vader in essence. So I mean, there's definitely some some reference there to lava, and they didn't have a good handle on. I think there was a lot of weird droids and shit that fell in that lava on Mustafar.
Yeah, they turned off the security and they were fighting, and then I'll never forget the sound.
Yeah, the big alarms. Well, and so so it was a nice call. And Mustafar actually became the planet where Vader set up his home, basically.
After the fact?
Yeah, after he became Vader, he went back and there's a temple almost, and that they've made that canon. You actually visit that. There's a whole game now. This 3D, what is it? The virtual reality game where you play.
Oh, on the Oculus, I played that before.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was at Mustafar.
Yep, that takes place at Vader's temple, basically in Mustafar, and then you visit Mustafar. I think on in the newest one too, the new Jedi game, the Fallen Jedi or Jedi Fallen Order. So interesting stuff as far as how they've tied that all into. And another one, since we're talking about it, let's jump to near the end. We finally see Giancarlo Esposito in the flesh, and we see Dark Troopers. So that's what
those were, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're called Dark Troopers, and they're came from a game.
Are they different than Death Troopers?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
do tell, JJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was, and I don't remember the name of the game, but there was an old shooter game in Star Wars, and it was old. I mean, it's an old game, and they had Dark Troopers, and they've been in since that game. They were in some comic books when Dark Horse did.
Are you talking about Battlefront, the game?
So they did show up in Battlefront once, like
before
the original old, and then they were in comic books as well for a while. So they've made some brief basically, and this kind of goes, and we'll jump into one of the other topics that came up was with the blood that they took from the child originally, and that they need another donor. The Dark Troopers in some cases have force abilities. So they were.
Well, they look like Darth Vaders. I thought it was like an army of Darth Vaders.
Yeah, so it's what it is this. The design of the armor looks like they've designed it and it looked very similar to that. I should have pulled an image to show you kind of what the original version of the Dark Troopers look like. They have a similar look to Vader, very shiny black metallic, and they're bigger. They're actually an exosuit is what it is, that these force sensitive guys would wear, a dark trooper exosuit that made them very difficult to fight. But most of them had some sort of force sensitivity. So my guess is, going back to where we see the child, right, and we see the doctor from the first season talking about looking for someone that has a high M count, which would be midichlorians from the prequel, but they didn't want to drop that name because that caused a lot of issues with some Star Wars lovers back in the day. But they're looking for this midichlorian count, so that, in my opinion, to be able to inject in a grown person or a soldier with the ability to use the force, and it seems like it has
abilities.
And
JJ, remind us and our listeners, this is pre the new Star Wars movies. What do they call the bad guys?
First Order.
First Order.
This is pre-First Order, right?
Yeah, and so they've hinted at. You see the test tube guy that's bald looking and kind of disfigured. There's a lot of online speculation that, and I won't lie, there is a similar music. So when you listen to the music from the sequel trilogy, the first two have John Williams wrote a score song called my brain just went Snoke. And so a lot of people are trying to say that Snoke, that's like a lead into how Snoke was created, because we did find out in the last movie, spoiler alert, that he was a clone of sorts or created. So there's a lot of speculation that was the first iteration. These are the first iterations of Snoke. And there was a music overtone
update about that, but it was before I watched the episode, so I didn't read it, but it was like Mandalorian explained Snoke better than the movies ever did.
Yeah, and I'm kind of two minds. Like, I get it. I think it's cool that they gave this little reference, and there were some similarities to one of the people in the test tube to Snoke. There was like a head scar, and, he was bald-headed, and there was disfiguring. But I really hope they don't lead into that too much. I hope they leave that shit alone. Like, I think it's cool that they give it a reference. But one of the things that I love the most about this show is it stands alone. Like it doesn't, it gives little hints and little touches. Like, for example, and I know this came up in some conversations too, where Alderaan was brought up at the end of the episode, where the X-Wing guy that seems to be following the Mandalorian, I swear he's tracking him, is talking to Cara Dune about everything that's going on in the Outer Rim. He asks, it comes up that she's from Alderaan, which we learned in the first season, and we know that Alderaan was destroyed by the Death Star, by Grand Moff Tarkin, while of course Princess Leia watched on because that was her adopted planet. So those little tie-ins for me, I love, but that's all I need. I don't want deep dive explanations to help retcon your shitty writing for some movies, right? I get that, you know, you chose to have 3 different directors and writers involved in this sequel trilogy. That's not my fucking fault. And don't try to fix it on this great show that you've written and done, because you have that ability. And I hope Filoni will lean away from that and Favreau will lean away with it. But I do like the tie-ins, and I'm okay. Like I said, there was a musical overtone that sounded exactly like the song Snoke that John Williams wrote for those movies. I loved that was there. I loved that there was some similarities, and we can start to speculate, is this how Snoke came about? But I want that to be alone. Keep that in the Skywalker trilogy. Leave it out of my Mandalorian show.
Seriously, if the show would be about that, then they might as well just drop Daisy Ridley in it or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
When they were running at the end, were those Death Fighters flying I forgot the name of the bad guys' X-Wings for some reason.
Oh, the TIE Fighters?
TIE Fighters. They had like black and white badass helmets.
Yeah, so those were just TIE Fighter helmets. The pilots for the Empire always had that dark black outfit as well. The face mask's a little different than what you'll probably see if we see these Dark Troopers this season in action. They're going to be different. The visor slit's going to be a little bit smaller. The face mask itself isn't going to have that almost breather look to it. It'll have more of a stormtrooper smile, but smaller. And so
it looked like they were plugged into some sort of oxygen or something.
Yeah. So my guess is they're in stasis. Whoever's in the Dark Trooper outfits are in stasis. That's what it looked like to me. Or they haven't filled them yet, and that's just the plan. So I don't know. But Gideon seemed a little too smiley. Now, there also were droid versions of the Dark Troopers. So those may be an advanced new version of those super battle droids that we saw last season that killed Mando's family. So when he opened up the well and the super battle droid with the funny looking face, it was just giant aimed at him. It may be a version of those, because there were Dark Trooper that were droids as well. So I'm not sure where they're going to go with that, but there's definitely options.
Jeez.
That will be cool. I didn't think about a bad droid, honestly.
Yeah.
JJ just going for it.
I know, right?
I love this world, man. I do. Speaking of this, so let me get this out of the way. I do have to print a retraction, so to speak. So we talked last week about the Darksaber and the origins of the Darksaber. And I mentioned that this was the first Mandalorian and only Mandalorian Jedi, which is correct. The part that I missed on was there was old stories anyway, he never became the leader of Mandalore. He died, and the Jedi kept the Darksaber within the Jedi Temple. And the Vishla clan broke in during a siege on the Jedi Temple, broke in and stole the Darksaber. That's how they ended up with it, how Pre-Vishla in the Rebel or the Clone Wars story and show ended up with it. That's how I went back and rewatched some episodes.
The Mandalorians, you were saying, broke into a Jedi temple to steal the Darksaber?
Yeah, they broke in.
Whoa.
So there was a big battle. There was in the Old Republic, at the time of the Old Republic, which is when this Jedi would have existed. After he passed away, like I said, he died, and they kept the Jedi, his weapon, in the Jedi Temple. And then there was a siege on Coruscant, which is where the Jedi Temple was. And there was a battle, and the Vishla clan broke into the Jedi Temple during this battle and stole the Darksaber from them. And then that clan has kept the Darksaber until Pre-Vishla tried to lead the uprising against Satine Kryze and her pacifist order. And then that's how Maul got it, was he killed Pre-Vishla.
Okay.
And then
So this retraction because you caught a bunch of shit online from Star Wars fans. They're like, "Hey, man, fucking JJ, you're getting it wrong, bro."
No, I wish
No.
that would mean that we have more fans than we actually do. No, we do love the ones we have, but no, I didn't. I just was going back and I've been rewatching stuff, trying to refamiliarize because it gets me excited. This show gets me excited about that universe
That's
and
a
that
good thing.
world. And yeah, exactly. It's what it does, and it should do. And so I go and I've been rewatching, and Ian's been watching them, so he talks about them on occasion. I'm like, son of a bitch, I got to watch these again. So I just have been going back, and they touch on the fact that he never led Mandalore. Now, some of the Vishal clan throughout history has, because of the Darksaber, been able to become the Mandalore, but it was never this Jedi. He never left the Order. He just died, and so I wanted to make sure I fixed that because I was incorrect with my explanation there, and I don't want that shit. That's not good. So let's talk about again this whole. I want to talk about the visuals of this episode because the action in it was fantastic. First of all, like Max was saying, it and what you were saying, Jay, is it felt like Star Wars again. Like it was like, holy shit, this felt very Star Wars. He's running through these corridors, these blaster battles, and splitting up, and then the speeder chase, and then Matthew mentioned, these two guys can't even get down this hill before two of them get wasted. The TIE fighters running through. It was just so visually stunning. The whole chase scene and how this big tank speeder thing was like flying through. It felt really cool to watch Grief Karga shooting at the TIE fighters with the big gun in the back of it. What did you guys think of that? How'd you, from a non-freak Star Wars fan perspective, what do you guys think?
I got major props for Carl Weathers, man. Like, even I can remember feeling nostalgic when they were setting up to go inside and they're holding the blasters and just looking at the blasters. I was like, yeah, okay, this is Star Wars. And then the scene where they come off on the speed fighters, like my note at the time was like, did they both get stuck just because of two fucking stormtroopers? Seriously? And I was like, oh shit, never mind. There's a whole bunch of them. They got speeders. And when they crashed, it was beautiful. It was such a great scene. And he's great with action. And then like when he had that gun, my favorite shot was when the final guy's there and he like blows him up and you see his head spinning on the ground with the stormtrooper helmet. And then when the TIE fighters came in, like the score dropped and he made it scary. And I was like, wow, this is a very well done episode. And Carl Weathers is just, like I said, that's when I realized, okay, he doesn't have a slave. He's just a fucking boss and he just does whatever he wants.
Yeah, it was fun.
I did like the throwback on the targeting systems. I've been watching the first three and now the original three with my little sister. We're going through them. I'm trying to get her to learn the original Star Wars because she didn't know who Anakin Skywalker was. So anyways, but it was kind of fun because I noticed the targeting systems is a lot like the ones they use in that original trilogy, which was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like,
I mean, I think that scene was awesome. I thought because the base was blowing up and they were in like a lava, like what was carved out by lava before, I thought lava was going to be involved in the scene as well. But obviously, I mean, they had some other great speeders and the ships and whatnot. So it was. I had a different expectation, but it was still very impressive.
Yeah. I will say that there's a couple things I didn't love about this episode, surprisingly. When you first see Cara Dune and she's fighting down where the old forge was for the Mandalorians, where the covert was. I love the fight. I love the introduction to the fact that she's now the marshal of this settlement. What I didn't love was this muskrat freaking meerkat thing that, I mean, we saw them in the first season. They're like lava meerkats because they were running around in the lava when they were down there in the first season.
I didn't even notice.
Like, it looked so janky to me. Like, I was like, wait a minute, you can make this beautiful speeder chase later, but and you can even make the baby Yoda, even though it's an animatronic or a puppet to a certain degree, look pretty cool. But what the hell's going on with this weird ass meerkat creature? Like, it looks terrible.
They did an all-right job, except they did do that one shot when they're holding it to chop its head off that it was a total Jim Henson looking thing. And it just ruined the rest of because I liked the meerkat at first. I was like, oh, they're going to kill it. What is with these bugs, man? There's fucking bugs. Like they're putting shit on the Razor Crest so that they can get tracked. They're killing meerkats.
Yeah.
Gotta get rid of those fucking bugs in Star Wars, man.
Telling you. The other thing I didn't love was, and this is such a nitpicky Star Wars thing for me, was at the end again when we talk about Alderaan and this guy that's part of the rebellion or part of the New Republic, and obviously has been flying X-wings for a while, and he's older. This dude is graying, and it's the battle. Alderaan happened 30 years or 20 years before this or whatever it was. How the hell does this guy not? He asks her, "Did you lose anyone?" She lost her whole planet, dude. It's not like this isn't like she, someone was in a car accident or there was a war in a little town. The whole planet was blown up. Did you really just ask her if she lost someone?
Hey, he wanted to give her an opportunity to explain, like if she wanted to say more.
Fair enough, I guess.
Was that the pendant? Was that like the pendant of that planet, the Alderaan planet? Like at the end when he hands her the pendant?
Good question. No, it had the rebel insignia on it, and so I'm assuming because we've seen in the last season that it seemed like she kind of was ostracized from the rebellion. Like she must have done something, and we don't know what happens. But she's afraid to go back to New Republic space or space outside of the Outer Rim. So I'm assuming that she did something that got herself in trouble. To me, that was a gesture for him to say, "You're all right. We're not going to mess with you," and gave her this medallion that was looked like a rebellion medallion of some sort.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that.
Yeah, but I don't know specifically what that was. But that really bothered me. I was like, really? You asked that?
I do have to bring up my nitpicky critique that once again his ship was fixed in like half a day as it was on its last leg, flying in with nets and fishing wire and all that stuff. Every time, man, it's like they hit the respawn button on a ship.
Yeah,
it's like GTA.
It's true.
Yeah.
You do the little code, and his ship just falls out. New ship falls out of the sky and lands on the ground. GTA, I love that.
I have got to bring up Baby Yoda because
I was about to do that. Good segue, Jay.
I kind of blown my own head here because I was trying to think of a topic, and like it was my favorite part of the episode is watching him. And then as I continued to think about it, I got kind of deep. And so I know it's a recurring theme already on this show where, he's a fucking, from the get-go, he's a sadistic little fucking, I love it, you know what I mean? And I think that like we should put up like a Twitter type of thing to find out what we should name him, because he can't be Baby Yoda anymore because he is going to be such a badass fucking Yoda when he grows up, dude. He's like a Mandalorian already. And so like I was thinking of a few names. I was like, we could call him Darth Yoda, Moth Yoda. And like what we see so when it was so good to see him in that school. And he's just like a bully. He just took that fucking kid's food. And then when they were fighting in the plane, he had his hands up. He's like, yeah. And so when we see him with Mando, we're just watching him survive with Mando. And we don't really realize that he's learning how to be like Mando until he gets into these outside settings, like, choking that girl. And, he's at this school bullying this kid for his food. And I was like, man, he's going to grow up to be the best fucking Yoda.
To be fair, he did ask first, though. Like, at first he asked, "Can I have a cookie?" And the little shit just kept eating in front of him.
Yeah, I know, right?
And he's like, "Screw you, dude. I'll take your cookies." I did like that scene. And I did love that. It's a good point. I mean, you get to see that this kid's raised on adventure and high adrenaline, right? Like, the ship's going around, flying around, and he looks like he's on a roller coaster. I did laugh when they made him lose his cookies at the end. It's like, yeah. See, shouldn't be eating your cookies there on that speed ride there, buddy. What were you going to say, Mattson, about the child?
Oh, it's just a lot of the same. He's so cute. Like, just a little goober. You want to pinch him. You just want to play with him. Like, the hands up to the... I was like, he's going to use the Force to get those cookies. And he did just that. And then, obviously, he had to throw up. And I just like that we got in the electricity... We just got a lot more personality from him and the playfulness, and it was just fun to see. I just like, oh no, baby Yoda.
And also to kind of get to what you were talking about at the beginning, Matson, where you're like, why do we need these episodes? Maybe we need it because we're actually going to see what this character develops into in the future. Like, what if he develops into like a Mandalorian Yoda, just whooping ass everywhere?
I just want to see that little tiny Mando armor.
I know. That would be great.
That'd be way funny. So a couple things about what I feel like we're gonna see soon. Obviously, we talked last week about Ahsoka, and I incorrectly called her Jedi. She's not Jedi anymore. She left the Jedi Order as well. That was another thing that I forgot to mention. Is she was a Jedi, but she was always a Padawan. She left after some false accusations of being part of a plot, an assassination plot. She left the Order, even though they tried to take her back. But she's still one of my favorite characters. I'm so excited because if they don't show her next week, I may just quit watching this damn show. No, I'm just kidding. But I am stoked. I hope she shows up next week. And then I'm interested to see, I feel like they're setting it up for Mando to lose the kid for a minute.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And so I'm interested on that. Because I think this dude's going to go ape shit if he loses his kid.
If they have a tracker on a ship and they're this prepared, like, yeah, he's a boss, but they're going to have umpteen amounts of soldiers coming down on this, and you think he's going to lose it. Should he probably die? Probably, but we can't have him die.
No, I would hope not.
You know what? We'll probably see the two of them in action doing the Mudhorn clan and just whooping ass on both sides of the aisle, and then they get back together.
Yeah. With Ahsoka too, I can't wait because obviously she'll help to defend them. My fear, and I'm telling you guys, this like it makes me sick to my stomach. Legitimate fear is that they're gonna kill Ahsoka, because like she's quote unquote almost died a couple of times in the animated series. Like there was times everybody thought she was dead, and so Dave Filoni made these big jokes. He would wear to Star Wars Celebration and Comic-Cons and stuff this shirt that would say Ahsoka lives with a question mark at the end of it. And so it's like always messing with it because she's like the most popular thing out of these animated shows. So I'm afraid that they're going to do that because in this she's going to be obviously much older, but we'll see. I'm excited to see what's to come. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, guys?
Bring me more. Love it. Warp speed, baby.
All right.
Seriously, I'm all in. Yeah, they hooked me on this one.
Love it. It was a great episode. Everybody should go check it out. If you haven't watched it, do it now. It's a fun one. Lots of new information. Lots of great things with this blood of the child and the dark troopers, and it's
and
fun
that
to see how
still
it's coming
isn't
together.
fully explained. So I like that there's still more to discover, especially now with the Darth Vader army. Cool, coming. Super excited.
Yeah, it should be fun. All right, boys. Well, that's it. Everybody that's joined us, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys next week, 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. Talk about the chapter 13, which should be fun. So join us. We look forward to it. And thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.